Welcome to Caring Community with your host, Jay West. In this community, creative initiatives are welcome. A culture of transformation is normal, and miracles are expected. Welcome to Caring Community.
Hi, welcome to Caring Community. I'm Jay West, and this is my guest, Sharon Zehnder. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
This is our 51st show, well, second with her, my 51st show, and we had her on last week, and so much material and information about grief, and she's been actively involved in grief care for about 20 some years, and she's written an amazing book called Crosswords for Grief, and we'll put her website on there so that if you're interested in this book, it's loaded with wonderful 30, like almost one a day per month, of options of words that would be important for you if you were going through a grief process. I'm going to read all 30 of them, just so you know the titles: hope, lonely, love, comfort, empty, strength, faith, peace, sad, alone, anger, fear, sorrow, tears, abandon, despair, lost, pain, pray, trust, acceptance, grief, guilt, heal, heaven, hurt, joy, loss, overwhelmed, and regret. And most of those, you don't have to choose, they just come to you. At Diane's funeral, when my wife died, we had a plaque up there, and it's hanging on my wall at home. It says, "I choose joy." You know, in some of these you have to choose, but a lot of them just hit you. And you may get hit with 4 or 5 of them all in one day.
Yes.
You know, like abandon. I read that one. A lot of people that have lost a loved one, they just suddenly feel abandoned by God, you know, and abandoned by their friends. And I have a friend who lost her husband a number of years ago, and she said, we did lots of things with couples, and one by one, all the couples dropped out. Now I don't have anybody to do anything with.
Yes.
You know.
I hear that also with when a person loses both parents, they sometimes feel like an orphan, you know, which would apply to the abandon word.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I heard this too. I don't know. I think it's got some accuracy to it. There's also some parts that you could argue with, but I think when you lose your parents, you lose part of your past, and when you lose a spouse, you lose part of your present, and when you lose a child, you lose part of your future. And I think there's some good truth in that too. So
Yeah. I wanted to say on those 30 words, Jay, that you read, they were in descending order. So the word hope, when I interviewed anonymously people, those words that you started with were the words that were most common that people were struggling with. And that word hope is a big word, because if you don't have hope, it's hard to keep going.
Right.
And so when you look at the words, just knowing, boy, those top ones, hope and loneliness, those are really big for people.
Right. You know, when Diane first died, like 2 or 3 weeks after she died, former governor of Kansas, Sam Brownback, called me on the phone. He's a very close friend. And he told me about a book that he wanted me to read called Imagine Heaven. And Imagine Heaven is a book that a pastor in Austin, Texas, at a Gateway Church, he has 5,000 members, and I can't remember, his first name is John, and I can't remember his last name, John Burke. Anyway, he wrote this book, and he's been featured on Focus on the Family, he's been on CNN, he's been on Fox, he's been on all sorts of news networks because of this book. Well, it took him 30 years to write this book, and he did 30 years of research, and he interviewed thousands of people who had near-death experiences and what they experienced if they went to heaven or hell. He only has 1 chapter on hell, all the rest of them are on heaven. Then he adds all the biblical references in, and he narrowed it down to just 100 people, and who weren't looking for a book deal or a movie deal or whatever, just wanted to share their story. And I found out that I had 2 friends in the book, and one of them is a man whose name is Steve Sjogren, and Steve is a pastor of the Cincinnati Vineyard. He has 6,000 members in his church. So you got people that have had these experiences, and they're credible, because if 5,000 people, 6,000 people in your church, you're not going to write and make up a story that could be, you know, scrutinized and thrown out or whatever. You're going to tell the truth. The point of all this And it's, by the way, Steve called me and told me his whole story for an hour, what really happened. He died on the operating table for 13 minutes. He bled out. They nicked his aorta, they nicked his, whatever, I guess it's the aorta vein anyway, and he bled out. And he told me about his experience. Mm-hmm. The point of all that is to say that book was a huge source of hope of where people are, if they know Jesus, and what they're experiencing, what they're doing. And I would encourage you to get it. It's called Imagine Heaven, and it's online. You can get it from a lot of bookstores. I've seen it at Baker's grocery store. So if you've lost a loved one, that'd be a book worth getting too. So, because you're right. Hope is like the Bible says, hope deferred makes the heart sick.
Yeah.
And then it goes on and says, when it springs forth, it's a tree of life. But when it's gone, man, you feel sick. You just feel lousy.
And I talk about that under joy and heaven. I mean, when Jesus endured the cross for the joy set before him, that Greek word that they use, it's that being able to even see, that we're the joy. We can even imagine that we were the joy that Jesus saw, the body of Christ when he endured the cross.
He had a mixture, a blend of emotions. Obviously, it says that, but simultaneously, he prayed really, really hard to sweat drops of blood to get out of it.
He did.
Okay, it's like you got joy, like I'm willing to do this, and it's joyful, but simultaneously, I don't want to do this at all.
That's right.
And we live life that way a lot. God calls on us to do something. Okay, I love you, Lord. I'll do it because I really love you. But I really don't want to do it because it's going to put me in a bind. It's going to mess up my schedule. It's going to whatever. It's going to cost me money, and you don't want to do it.
Oh yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes what he asks us to do.
One of my favorite verses is Isaiah 1:19. Says, "If you're willing and obedient, God will give you the good of the land." And then I paraphrase and I say, many believers are willing, but don't get to the obedience stage.
Yeah.
And then other believers are obedient, but they do it unwillingly. They say, I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to do it. And God's saying, if you're willing and obedient, do both.
That's a good word. I like that.
Good.
The other
found
thing,
something she likes. Hallelujah. I can go on with life.
Well,
I'm teasing.
The other thing, I can even apply it to my book, because when the Lord gave it to me, I really clearly heard that I was supposed to write a book. But I wasn't obedient for a few years, because it just was out of my realm of ever doing. But so sometimes being willing, taking that step.
I waited 20 years before I wrote my first book. I heard it over and over, write a book.
See, there you go.
I'd be like Joyce Meyer now. I would have put out 50 or 100 books by now if I'd started a lot earlier. So
I'm so thankful the Lord loves me whether I'm obedient or not. His love for me is not based upon, what I do or don't do.
But that's not an excuse not to be obedient either.
But we're robbing ourselves of the joy that he can bring us when we do step out in obedience.
Even in giving. I remember one time, there's a long story to this, and I didn't have any income, and I had a dime in my pocket, and the Lord said, put a dime in the offering plate.
Ooh.
Okay, and I had money in and he said, if you'll do it, I'll multiply it 1,000%. Okay, well, 1,000% times a dime, I think, is $100. And I thought, well, I have a $10 bill in my wallet. If I put a $10 bill in, I get 1,000%, I'll get more back. But then I remember the verse, obedience is better than sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So I put have you ever been to church? If you're in church and they pass the offering plate, they don't do it so much anymore during COVID, but they pass the offering plate. Everybody pretends not to look, but everybody's looking at whatever else is putting in. So the basket, I went like this, just drop the dime in, And literally that night, somebody they came over and they said, I just feel like I want to bless you. I know you're going through a difficult time. They gave me a check for $200 that very night. And then, so the next week, this is a true story. So the next week, this was in Texas, and I told Diane, I said, we got $100 more than what I thought God was going to give us. So let's just give half of that. Let's give $100 in the offering the next week. So I gave $100 the next week, and just because I love God, okay? I don't give to get, I give because I love Jesus. Mm-hmm. All right? But the fact remains that sowing and reaping goes in effect, and he still gives you back. So then I went to visit somebody in the hospital that I'd heard about, and the man said, nobody would come up here, no pastor, nobody would come up here. You came up here, and I don't know how he had this, but he had his checkbook at the hospital. He wrote me out a check for $1,000.
Wow.
And so it all started with a dime.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of the rest of that would have happened otherwise.
Yeah.
So obedience is, so you were obedient, you wrote this book. She's got a picture on the back. She's wearing the same clothes there that she is today. Almost.
No, I'm not.
She got the same hairstyle.
Yes, I do have the same hairstyle.
You're wearing, I came in and said, oh, you got the memo. I'm wearing brown. She's wearing brown. You got the brown memo. I never wear brown hair. I usually wear black or red or gray or something, so I wore brown
It's
this
cold
morning.
outside, so
It is cold, so brown is warmer.
I don't know, but
Well,
this
so you got a brown,
was
you got a
warm.
brown cross on the front of the book. You got brown dirt down here. So, I got brown shoes on. So anyway, yeah, enough of the brown. Okay, so what else do you want to talk about?
We talked earlier a little bit about, I talked about how important it is to let yourself feel what you need to feel. And sometimes I think it's helpful to just talk about some practical things that can help you do that, with people, because sometimes it's just hard to know how to feel that out. And so I write in my book under the word heal, and this is what I talk about with people quite a bit. If I have one-on-one time with someone after they've lost their spouse, I've landed on what I call 4 healthy outs, and I can just quickly go through them and go back and revisit any of them that you want me to talk about. But the first one is you talk it out. The second one is you cry it out. The third one is you write it out. And the fourth one is you work it out. And each one of those, there's hundreds of more things that you can do to be healthy with your grief. But each one of those, because they have the word out, they're a little bit easier to remember, as you're
I had one before
grieving.
the talk it out. For 5 weeks, I shouted it out.
Oh, there you go.
I was shouting at God. I was ticked off. I was angry. I prayed for, as you know, hundreds of thousands, not thousands, but lots and lots. We've seen tons and tons of healing. I prayed for my wife. She doesn't get well.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
I'm like, where were you? Why didn't you back it up? I'm shouting at him. I'm angry. I'm ticked off,
Yep.
And fortunately, I say I wrestled with God just short of breaking my hip. But anyway.
But that one falls under when I talk about writing it out. I talk about the value of journaling your feelings and I give people 3 different methods that I've kind of landed on over the years. And the second one is using the book of Psalms, because I talk about lamenting in the book. And the Psalms are loaded with laments, either a verse or a phrase or sometimes, a lot of the whole psalm.
Right.
And it's so interesting to me that God would have the psalmists, whether it's David or other psalmists that are writing there, be so honest with their feelings. Why have you abandoned me? Why is my soul so downcast? And put that in there, and yet they're going to God.
Right.
That's the point. They're going to God with those feelings, and they're getting them out. And as they go to God, every one of those psalms ends in praise, except Psalm 88. 88 is what they term a dark psalm. There's still powerful truths in it. But as the psalmist goes to God and he's just honest, God changes his heart. He realizes, you're God, I'm not.
Right.
And he ends up praising God. Did you find that,
Well,
as you were
different
shouting?
Different times in my life, I might be griping, and a believer would come and say, you shouldn't be griping. I said, I'm not griping, I'm lamenting. So I use the biblical term.
But did you find that, when you just vented out what you were feeling to God,
we've always been a big Christmas family, love decorating. I have Department 56 houses that are collectibles. We have trees. We don't go overboard, but it's tastefully done and nice. And we have a really large tree that we put out on our patio or we have a peak ceiling and whatever. And my son and I were just like, I don't want to decorate. I don't want to decorate. Yeah. I wasn't excited about it for first Christmas, Yeah. And we normally decorate the day after Thanksgiving, take it down the day after New Year's, and there's 6 weeks there of just really enjoying it. And we talked about it at home in terms of our feelings, and we both came to the conclusion Diane would want us to decorate. Mm-hmm. So we didn't decorate everything. We didn't put up the village, like I mentioned. We didn't put up the big giant tree, but we got a lot of stuff out. We put a lot of smaller things out. Festive poinsettias, manger scenes, et cetera, so that it looked nice. And even though during COVID, we actually only had 2 people at our house during the whole Christmas season, so actually hardly anybody saw it. Mm-hmm. We always usually have a big Christmas party and things like that. We didn't do that, obviously, because of COVID, but we still did it.
Yeah.
And it made it feel festive. It made it, and our feelings, if we'd just gone with our feelings, we wouldn't have done it at all. Mm-hmm.
Those are hard things to discern sometimes, and sometimes you do it because you need to, and sometimes, I that's one of the things I talk about with the holidays is simplify. You don't have to do everything the same. Grieving persons usually low energy. It's just hard. And so you have permission to change things and simplify. Do what's important to you.
I thought you were going to have some other 5 words. So you got this out verse, either simplify, exemplify, semperfi for the Marines, whatever, you know.
But I mean, every holiday is different. You know, you'll have a different perspective, you know, for the next holiday and the one after that. And you're not setting things in stone if you do something different, you know, one year.
And for us, you know, there's Thanksgiving, and then my birthday is a week later, and then 3 weeks later is Christmas, and then 3 days later is our son's birthday, and then 4 days later is New Year's, and then 3 days later is her death day. And so there's like 6 things there in 5 weeks. You know,
That's a lot.
That's a lot to go through. And so this first year, and I had somebody criticize me and said I should be a lot healthier, a lot further along. And I said, you've obviously never lost anybody, and they hadn't. I said, we got all these things together. But what we did was we planned out ways to be busy on all but one of those. We couldn't figure out on one. New Year's Day was hard to figure out. But like for Thanksgiving, we went and served at the Open Door Mission.
Yes.
So we went down and served other people. You know, on my birthday, we planned to gather with other friends. You know, on Christmas, we decided to go away, and we went to Diane's side of the family and spent Christmas with them. And so we did different things on each of those days, you know, that helped create an environment, what we talked about before, of hope, encouragement, bringing some joy, bringing some laughter, you know, bringing some smiles. There were tears every day. I think I've cried every day since she died, and it's been 13 and a half months. Simultaneously, I've had a lot of joy, a lot of smiles, a lot of happiness, a lot of new things in my life, a lot of new beginnings. I see God working, you know.
Yeah. I really encourage that, you know, with the holidays and those occasions, that you have a plan. You know, don't go into it just kind of seeing how you think it will go. Have something that you have a plan. Simplify, and don't have an elephant in the room. That's not a problem in your family at all. You know, but some families have that. It's just been amazing to me over the years how hurtful it can be when the one I had early on in years, they lost a daughter in her age of 20s. And the first holiday, no one said her name. No one.
Right.
And it continued. I don't even see how that's possible. But that's the elephant in the room, where people mistakenly think if I mention their name or if I ask, then this person's going to get emotional and I'm going to hurt them. So they don't even go there, where the exact opposite is nobody's saying their name anymore. Nobody's asking, and you're craving that, you know, that safety of.
Well, that's what we talked about last show, where after the first month, all your friends basically stop talking about it because they figure you're back to normal.
And they don't want to hurt you.
And they don't want to hurt you. Yeah.
They think if they say Diane's name.
You know, when you first said don't have an elephant in the room, I thought she meant don't have a Republican, but you know. I'm teasing. Got her equal time, Republicans, Democrats. She knows, the reason that's kind of funny is because I pray with political leaders at the local, state, and national level, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and I do it all over the nation and all different people and stuff, and so.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why it's kind of funny. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just important to continue, and the talk it out is where you have what I call those safe people that you can be real with.
Right.
And they in grief work we talk, they companion alongside you. They're usually good listeners. They care about you, and they're not trying to fix you.
Right.
Because that fixing, sometimes people just don't want us hurting, and they want it better, and they think they can help us by telling us what we need, and instead we just need them to companion alongside.
Is your book available on Amazon or anywhere else?
Let me tell you where the book's available. I like to support local. Divine Truth, here in Omaha. They have it you can walk in and buy it. It's on Amazon, Zulon, Barnes & Nobles. I have a website, which I know you'll put up. But, yep, it's available.
Okay, good. So it says on the back, Sharon Zehnder, a gifted, wonderful, anointed author. No, it doesn't say that.
I was going to say,
Pastor's
wait a
wife,
minute.
speaker, aftercare director at a large family-owned funeral home, having served in these ministry capacity for close to 40 years. She didn't even look 40. I don't know how that's possible. She helps grieving families by offering grief support, education, weekly support with gifts and encouragement, which she does have, and teaching, which she does have. She has spoken at retreats and seminars. You're going to be speaking at another retreat. You're going to be speaking at a conference coming up. What is it?
Oh, best practices in Phoenix, yes.
Best practices. So if you're in the Phoenix area, and you want
Yes.
what's the dates on that?
I think it's February. It's a Wednesday. I think it's the 17th.
I don't even know what best
maybe.
practice is. What is that?
They bring in people all over the United States. It's within our church body, and if you have something that you would like to share with others that you think they would benefit from, you just submit a title and what your workshop's going to be about, and you get to speak. It's offered free.
Is it too late for me to sign up and do any of my books?
I don't know. You have to check it out with
Now
them.
that I'm back in the group,
Yeah.
I was out of this church body for a while. Now I'm back in it. It's kind of funny.
I know
so.
that the workshops, I think those are all decided because but it's all free. It's sponsored by Christ Church in Phoenix area. And that's what they do, just to serve the larger church body. And all the people that speak, it's all free. It's just...
You and Mark are both speaking?
Yes, we are. And we have. And
Are you speaking together? Or?
No. I'm doing something on grief, and he's talking about church transitioning.
Okay. I thought maybe he was doing births or something, on the opposite end of the spectrum.
So, but yeah, there's options for that.
Are you ready for your topic?
I will be. Not
so,
quite.
Because he's not ready either. He's told me yesterday, he said, I got a lot to do to get ready for this. So
Yeah.
And then the day goes by and he goes, I didn't get anything done towards this. And it's like, so.
Yeah, he'll get there.
So
I
know that experience from traveling. February I'm going to Topeka and then to Sacramento. So I got to get ready for those too. So I've just added another 35 hours of work to my coming on staff at King of Kings. So it's a little bit harder now, especially being brand new. Technology has been my biggest challenge there. Goodness sakes.
That can be.
Goodness.
It's a large church too. Mark and I have been at a traditional church that was over 100 years old. We were at a church start and now at a large church, and there's differences with all of those.
Yeah, you planted that church, but it grew too, right?
Yeah, it did.
It grew significantly. You were in Tennessee?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
So.
I'm glad you all came to Omaha, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here right now. I don't know what I would have done, so anyway, but
Well.
between you and Mark, so. Mark, I don't know, do you know the C. Peter Wagner story with Mark? Do you know that story? Because we put it on the last show. Did you get to watch it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I do
So-
know. I do know that.
He just prayed that I needed $750 very quickly to fly to a conference. He prayed. He said that he just prayed that God would provide that supernaturally. He calls me back 30 minutes later. He said, "I shouldn't have prayed that prayer. God told me to pay for it." So now I'm asking to pray for that new F-150 pickup truck that I want.
Oh, if it were only that easy, huh?
You have a very contagious laugh. Mike, just make her laugh a whole bunch of times on the show, okay? So everybody get really happy that's watching the show.
I'm telling you, my two boys, they get me laughing, and they know this. So it's our whole family ends up laughing. They bring a lot of joy in my life.
How long have you guys been in Omaha?
We came in 99, or 90. I'm sorry, 93. I was confusing my workplace.
I thought you came in 93.
Yeah, 93.
So you came here in 93 when I
When
left.
did you guys come?
We came in 2000.
Okay.
So you're like 7 years ahead of us. So.
Yeah. Because
So.
I knew you hadn't been, in Omaha. I mean, I knew you came after we
Right.
came to Omaha.
Yeah, Mark. I called King of Kings, asked Mark, I need a realtor, and he gave me Lois Hartman. So.
Oh, yeah.
So Lois helped me find our first house, and
Oh,
Lois and
she's a sweetheart.
we talked yesterday. We've been friends for 20-some years, so yeah. So it's funny how you meet somebody and you just stay friends with them. Other people you meet, it's a one-time thing. You never see them again. So,
Yeah.
so speaking about never seeing again, if you're going through grief and you've lost a loved one, or you have a friend that's lost a loved one, or a family member, or whatever, or through COVID or whatever, this is an excellent book, Crosswords for Grief by Sharon Zehnder. Encourage you to check out her website, which will be on the screen. Thank you for coming on the show.
You're
You're
welcome,
awesome.
Jay.
You're
Thank
incredible.
you.
It was a blessing. Nobody else has gotten the memo on what color to wear, so I wear color, and she's the first one out. 51, this is our 51st show. 51 shows finally got. My wife did when she did it, but otherwise, because we always kind of planned it out that way. So Crosswords for Grief, buy this book. I'm sure there's a sequel coming out soon. It'll be a movie deal and other things coming up soon, right?
Right. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
It's
a hot topic. So anyway, the book will help you. All kidding aside, the book will help you. You'll be encouraged. You'll be blessed. You'll be inspired. You'll probably be challenged. God will speak to you.
That's what we want.
And your life will be changed. It's already changed because you lost a loved one, but it's going to be changed for the good. You know, every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights. So that's James 1:17, I think it is. And so, you know, God's got a plan for your life even though you've lost somebody. And I can say that now in hindsight. I wasn't sure 14 months ago, but I am now because I've seen God accelerate all sorts of things in my life and do some incredible, amazing things. So thank you for tuning in to Caring Community. Thank you for showing up and staying around for a second show.
You're welcome, Jay.
And we'll have you back on the 100th show.
Oh,
Remind me.
that'd be great.
Okay. God bless you. See you next time. This is Jay West saying bye-bye.